Hi there, welcome to this speaking practice. Today we are going to be talking about CAE Speaking Test Part 3. I know that last video we were talking about the haunting of Bly Manor and our English got perfectly splendid. But today we are going to be talking about something more serious, the CAE speaking test, or even the FCE or the CPE. And we know that the speaking test is a part of the test that can result in many points for the candidates. So it's very good to have practice, to be prepared, to know exactly what you're expected to doing on the test parts so that you can get the best outcome, the best result, okay? So I'm going to talk very quickly about part 1. Part 1 is basically a question or some questions about your life, about your future, about your city. So it's very good to give clear, complete, interesting answers, okay? Part 2, you are supposed to talk about some pictures. You are supposed to compare the pictures, and then also you have to compare them and explain something. There's going to be a question, okay? And then on part 3, which is the part we are going to talk today, you are going to work with your partner, friend, or the other CAE candidate that is going to be there, and you are going to do this together. So that's why this part is called the collaborative task, okay? And you're going to collaborate with one another, and you're really going to work together trying to answer the question there in the middle and trying to reach a conclusion together, okay? So I consider this part very easy, and simultaneously it can be difficult if you get nervous, right? So my free advice to you is try not to panic, okay? So if you feel during the test that you were very anxious, maybe you can let your other friend start, okay? You can let the other candidate start, and you can follow him in the discussion, in the topics, right? But if you're feeling very comfortable and confident, it's a good idea to start, because you can start by showing your fluency and by showing your points of view, and this is going to leave a good impression on the examiners, right? Okay, so let's start. I'm going to perform this task with you. So the idea is that you pause this video so that you can think about the things you would say. The question is, what might people have to consider when making these decisions? Pause the video and think about what you would say, okay? So I was telling you that you are expected to give your opinions and evaluate ideas and listen and respond to your partner's ideas as well. So it's a good idea not to talk too much, okay? It's a good idea to let the other person have some time for him or her to explain their ideas, because if you talk, only you talk, you're gonna lose points because of that, okay? Because they will consider that you're not leaving time for the other candidate to talk, right? So bear this in mind, that you can use the time, but you have to think that the other person has to speak as well, right? So let's start. What might people have to consider when making these decisions? Okay, so shall we start? All right, making decisions is not something easy. Most of the times there are many things involved, and when you say yes to one thing, you say no to other things. For example, when you decide to get married, when one decides to get married, it's a big decision in a person's life because they are making vows that are supposed to last forever. They are supposed to be faithful to one another, and the couple is supposed to live even in all circumstances, when they're rich or poor, when they're sick or healthy. And we know how hard it's to keep these vows, these promises, especially when difficult times come. Don't you think? Okay, so when you say this, don't you think you're giving your friend opportunity to talk, okay? So if you start, it's a good idea to give a hint so that the other person starts talking too, okay? And what the other person is going to do is to complement your idea, to continue talking about the topic you said, okay? To expand your idea, and then he probably will start talking about something else. So suppose that he said that choosing a university, for example, could be difficult, and then you could continue his idea. If you agree, saying, yeah, you have a good point there, I agree with you, because when you choose a university, you're probably very young and not mature enough to reach such a decision, and you may be confused about your vocation, about your true feelings, about the things you want to do in the future, because maybe you can be led by feelings of admiration by somebody else's job, and then when you really start studying, the person can be faced with unpleasant feelings related to the degree they intend to have. So choosing a university, it can be a very difficult decision, okay, because you have to consider both what you think about that job and the reality of that itself, because we tend to see that in a romantic way, and when we actually are there working, it may be very different. The reality may be very different from what we have just expected. Okay, so the other person now can say, I don't know if I agree with you, because nowadays there is a lot of information and nobody is caught by surprise when they start studying something, because nowadays there is the internet. People can search information online, or they can just visit places where professionals of the fields they intend to work are there working. So I don't know if I follow you with that, but it's actually difficult to make this decision. But I think that even more difficult than that is starting a family. Starting a family may be a big change in someone's life, because they will have to make some sacrifices, because when you start a family you have to consider everybody's interest. You have to consider the well-being of everybody in the family, not only yours. So when you are single, you can do the activities you like, you can travel, you can where you feel like, but when you have a family, you have to consider their feelings, their needs. You have to consider the money that you're going to spend on the things for the family, and maybe in the past you use it to buy things for you only and care only about money making or working long hours. Now you have to put everything into consideration and see what's best for the family. So it's like not being selfish, and I truly believe that this is something learned during a lifetime, and not only when you make such a decision, you see. And maybe the other person can continue saying, yeah, certainly. So for example, in my family, I had a cousin who got pregnant, and she had to start a family without being really prepared for that. And she was told by many people that this would be very hard, but she didn't believe, and she decided to get married just because she was pregnant. And then in the end they ended up getting divorced, and she's very disappointed with this man and with love, and she's feeling hopeless. So maybe starting a family was not the right moment for her to do so. And so starting a family can also be difficult. Then you could say starting a family could also be difficult because you have to deal with other people's interference in your relationship, and it can be very hard to accept, and it can lead to many arguments in the couple or in the family when relatives, they tend to show the couple what's best for them, and sometimes they interfere in a negative way. So you see, many things can be said about these topics, but you are supposed to talk about them all, you and your friend. And in the end, the interviewer is gonna ask you, the examiner is gonna ask you to reach a decision, and you will be given 1 minute to reach this decision together, and you have to talk, the two of you, in this minute, okay? So one of you has to start saying something like that. So now we have to consider which of these things is more difficult when making a decision. So finding a job certainly is, because sometimes you have to consider working in a position that is not the one you were prepared or that you studied for, but you have to do so because you need to make ends meet. Or choosing a career can also be very demanding because you're not certain about the things you want to do when you in 5 years time. And moving to another country is certainly challenging because you don't know if you're going to adapt to a new culture. But I think that starting a family, it's the thing that really changes everything in your life, because apart from you, other people are involved, and you have to make everybody happy. You have to work that so that everybody gets happy. So in my opinion, it's this. And then the other candidate is gonna probably agree with you. Okay, so they're gonna say, yeah, certainly starting a family is a key moment for someone's life, and it can be a success or it can be a big failure. So if it's not done in the right time, in the proper time, it can traumatize everybody involved. And if there are kids involved, they can be influenced by this lack of responsibility of starting a family early. So I agree with you. And then you guys are ready to finish and fulfill the task completely. Okay? So guys, that was my video. These were my ideas to help you to do this task. I think the more you practice, the better you're gonna become, okay? And if you're taking the test and you realize that you're not able to express yourself the way you plan to, just relax, okay? Breathe, leave the other person, let the other person start some things, and then you can contrast or agree with what he or she said. But it's just a matter of practicing, okay? And if you fail, you can take the test again. So enjoy the process, enjoy the journey. Don't worry so much about the certificate. Worry about what you're learning, what you're truly learning from this experience, okay? I hope you have enjoyed, and I'll come for more videos. Bye bye, take care, see you.